the last episode is fantastic because you bring kind of everything together of all of your travels around the world and talk about this event that happened in a fascinating way I'd never thought of before, where it was I think it was like a comet's wake that hit all around the Earth. Can you maybe talk about that? Because it then pulls in all the things that you've just discovered. It's almost like a
It does indeed.
flashback.
When you're talking about a lost civilization, you really inevitably have to talk about a cataclysm. You're not going to lose a whole civilization to the point where it's remembered in myths and traditions, where there are some anomalous and unexplicable artifacts. You're not going to lose a whole civilization unless there was a huge cataclysm. And I was aware of this when I wrote Fingerprints of the Gods, which was published in 1995. It was obvious to me from a whole range of sources that there had been a cataclysmic event. And I put it somewhere around 12,500 years ago. The astronomy is very important. That Orion correlation link to 12,500 years ago, the way the belt stars line up perfectly with the pyramids 12,500 years ago, the way that the Sphinx gazes directly at the rising sun with the constellation of Leo behind it 12,500 years ago. This was the astrological age of Leo. I was very confident that something major had happened around 12,500 years ago, but I couldn't exactly specify what it was when I wrote Fingerprints of the Gods. And I looked into a number of possibilities, including Earth crust displacement, that might have led to a cataclysm on this scale. I was not to know that 12 years later, a team of scientists in the United States would come out with evidence of a massive global cataclysm that unfolded over those 1,200 years between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago, exactly the window that I had indicated in Fingerprints of the Gods. And they had very strong evidence for the cataclysm, not just myths, not just traditions, not just astronomy, but physical evidence on the ground. And that evidence takes the form of a layer in the Earth called the Younger Dryas boundary layer, which is filled with objects that can only result from an asteroid or a comet colliding with the Earth or air bursting in the sky above the Earth. And these objects include nanodiamonds. They're created by the tremendous shock and heat of the impact. They include carbon microspherules. They include quartz that's been melted at temperatures of more than 2,000 degrees. They include iridium. They include platinum. All of these are relatively common in comets and relatively rare on the Earth. And their presence in this boundary layer speaks of a massive event which took place all over the world, not just in one spot. So it started with a team of about 60 scientists who began to put this work into the public domain from the year 2007 onwards. And then were joined by astronomers who had been aware for some time of evidence that a very large comet entered the inner solar system about 20,000 years ago. They reckon it may have been as much as 100 miles in diameter. These comets come from deep space. They come from an area called the Oort cloud or the Kuiper belt, and they're drawn in by random gravitational forces. They enter the inner solar system, and they can go on an Earth-crossing orbit. When that happens, as they go into orbit around the sun. The evidence was that one of these comets entered the inner solar system about 20,000 years ago. And then it began to do what all comets do. This is a universal feature of comets. Every comet does it. When they enter an area of gravitational force, they start breaking apart into pieces. They start fragmenting. So your 100-kilometer single object is quite unlikely to collide with the Earth because it's a single object. But if you start breaking that down into thousands of objects, some of which may be 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers in diameter, some of which may be just the size of your fist, if you start breaking it down into a debris stream of thousands of fragments, a stream that then spreads out and becomes very wide, suddenly you have a hazard that the Earth is crossing, in fact, twice a year, which is extremely dangerous to the Earth. And the argument is that it's the meteor stream that we call the Taurid meteor stream today. It's called the Taurid meteor stream not because it comes from the constellation of Taurus, because it looks like it comes from the constellation of Taurus. When you look up at the sky in November, beginning of November, end of October, and you start seeing shooting stars, they're coming out of the Taurid meteor stream, and if you look in the background, you'll see the constellation of Taurus way back. That's why it's called the Taurid meteor stream. The Earth crosses that meteor stream twice a year to this day. That meteor stream is 30 million kilometers wide. It takes the Earth 12.5 days to cross it on each crossing, once in June and again in November. The Earth is passing through a cloud of debris. We know there are large objects in that debris. The best known of those objects is called Comet Enki, named after a Sumerian god, oddly enough. Comet Enki is just a fragment of the original giant comet that began to break up 20,000 years ago. Comet Enki's got a diameter of 5 or 6 kilometers. If Comet Enki were to collide with the Earth today, it would be the end of civilization as we know it. But it's just one of hundreds of objects of that size that are orbiting in the Taurid meteor stream, and which the Earth is passing through twice every year. So it's rather like crossing a gigantic sort of 8-lane highway, wearing a blindfold, and just hoping that you'll somehow get through without anything big hitting you. And here's the argument and the evidence that is presented in the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, that comet entered the inner solar system about 20,000 years ago. It began to break up into multiple fragments. Its debris trail became wider and wider. Around 12,800 years ago, the Earth passed through a bit of that debris trail that contained large numbers of hazardous objects. They reckon that 2 or 3 of those objects were in the range of a kilometer in diameter. They hit the North American ice cap. They unleashed huge amounts of melting ice water, which went into the world ocean and changed global climate overnight. This is the beginning of the Younger Dryas, 12,800 years ago. But there were impacts all across the globe. Many of them were airbursts. Far away from North America, at Abu Huraira in Syria, there's evidence of an airburst there at exactly the same time, 12,800 years ago. It's found in that layer in the soil. An object didn't even hit the Earth. It blew up in the sky. We've had an object out of the Taurid meteor stream almost within living memory. It's quite famous. It's the Tunguska event in Siberia, in Russia. Happened on the 30th of June, 1908. That's at the peak of the Beta Taurids. Remember I said we cross the Taurid meteor stream twice a year, once in June, once in November. That object that caused the Tunguska event in 30th of June 1908 came out of the Taurid meteor stream. It's reckoned to have been about 100 meters in diameter. It wasn't big enough to reach the Earth. It exploded, massive explosion in the sky. You're looking at something like a nuclear bomb going off in the sky. It flattened 2,000 square miles of trees in Siberia. Fortunately, it was an uninhabited area. As far as we know, nobody was killed. There was massive destruction on the ground. If that had happened over a major city, the death count would have been in the millions. It was a devastating event, and it was a relatively small bit.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple-digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy, from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today.
Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you gonna do? What's the choice that you're going to make?